Hello, Instagram. We are, well, scoot over a little bit. There you go. Just right there. We are going live with our virtual meeting. So you're going to have to bear with us. I'm sure that the quality might be spotty at times, but just be patient with us. And we're just on here a few minutes early so that we can make sure everything works. So this is Robert, and I'm Janelle.
Hello.
And if you saw my video earlier, I tried to talk about some terminology. Let's see if I can move you guys. Oh, that's better. And move you. How's that? I think that's better. Is that better?
A little bit.
Okay, so we're with Henderson County Beekeepers, and our club meets in Athens. And I would say we've been around for 4 years?
I've been around for 47.
The club has been around for, 4 or 5 years. So we used to be members of East Texas Beekeepers, but we had a lot of senior citizens that were in East Texas Beekeepers, but living in this neck of the woods. And so they kind of wanted to have something that they weren't having to drive at night to. And so we helped launch the club, get it up and off the ground. And so that's what Henderson County Beekeepers is. And I used to tell people that we have a lot of beginning beekeepers in the club, but at this point we actually have some experienced beekeepers between Barbara Gosnell, she's running 16 hives, and then
I don't think it matters how many hives, just how long you've been doing it.
and the experience of that. She's grown quite naturally, organically, right? She's been splitting her hives and growing her apiary at a just not real fast, but she's gaining tons of experience. Anyway, we have lots of beekeepers that have been doing it for a couple years now and have learned kind of the ins and outs. So if you saw the video that I posted earlier, I posted on Instagram and Facebook just to cover some terminology. If anybody's interested in taking a beekeeping class, we still are going to be teaching classes this year. We start with our first class on Saturday, and we do have some seats available. And then we have another class in February and another one in March. And if you're interested in that, you can look up Milk and Honey Meadows on Facebook or Instagram, and the information is there. So, and we'll also be selling hives, right?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. So we're going to be selling hives. They'll be available probably at the end of April. The hives that we sell come in a deep box with 8 frames and a feeder. And we guarantee 5 frames of brood, but generally speaking, you'll get
Bees.
Yes, of bees and brood. You're right, bees. 5 frames of bees. The bees are on the frames, established, working the hive and all that kind of stuff. And but generally, when you come to pick them up, the hives are very large and doing really well. So we hope that we have that same experience this year. So if you're interested in purchasing bees, you can message us at Milk and Honey Meadows. You can post a message on Henderson County Beekeepers. Our bees, we're going to be actually splitting our bees this year and selling, correct?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. And so these bees are bees that have been in East Texas, some for several years and some for a year or two. So, so that's the bees. And can you talk about the genetics of the bees that we will have?
Italian.
Okay.
Mostly Italian.
Okay. No other crazy genetics that you've brought in? You were just going to stay with Italian.
Not intentionally, no.
Okay. Okay, so.
I can't control who they,
who the queens mate with.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else can we talk about for 5 minutes? Okay, so we would love for you to join Henderson County Beekeepers. When you join, you get to support our club, and we get involved in community events. So in the past, we've set up a booth at Keep Athens Beautiful, and we just promote different things in the beekeeping world, and kind of publicly share about bees and about our club. So some other things that we hope to do in the future is to get some youth involved in beekeeping, and get some youth into a class like the way our children got involved in beekeeping. But at this point, we're still rather small. And with COVID and all the crazy stuff that's going on, we're just taking it month by month. But we are planning to go in person starting next month. And in fact, we are going to be having our elections next month. So if you're interested in running for a position, we would love for you to come out. We have all your typical positions: president, vice president, secretary, program director, program coordinator, treasurer. So anyway, we are looking to get some more people involved with the club and helping to keep it going and grow it. So what do you think? It's just now 6. So I've just been rambling so that you guys can all pop on here. And we've got a few people. If you have questions might be a little bit tricky tonight because it's hard to be doing a live and tracking on questions. Oh, and we just lost our Facebook connection. That's no fun. Okay. You can stand here and talk to the Instagram people.
Technical difficulties. She's trying to fix them. The Instagram should probably be on the phone as opposed to the Wi-Fi. Completely kicked her out.
Talk about terminology.
Terminology of what?
Anything. Bee terminology. Talk about 3 bees in the hive. Talk about why we're going to talk about splits.
Okay, so we're talking about splits tonight because really you want to, beekeepers just tend to want to grow their hives, grow the number of hives that they have. The most cost-effective way to do that is to split the hives that you have as opposed to buying them every year. So it's cheaper, it increases your knowledge as a beekeeper, it lets you realize just different things that's going on in the hive. So it's just a great opportunity to learn and then a great way to get more hives if that is your goal. And we're coming back on Facebook. There we go. All right. So, should I get in my class or what are we going to do?
Yeah, so welcome. If you're just now tuning in, we're the Henderson County Beekeepers. We're trying to keep the virtual meetings going, and so we're going to talk about splits tonight. So Robert's going to give us a little class on splits. If you have questions, you can try to post them, and I will try to answer them. I'm going to be over here on another computer, and we'll see how that goes. If you're on Instagram, I'm hoping that like Kim can answer questions on Instagram. So anyway, okay, so you go for it.
Okay, so first thing you want to do with hive or with splitting is you have to do some prep work. So obviously the first thing is you have to have a hive that you're going to split. So just for all purposes in front of me here, we'll assume that this is a hive full of bees, even though it's just got frames in it. But this is your healthy hive. This particular hive we'll say is just a 1 deep box hive. But before, so you have your hive that you want to split. So before that, you need to take care of a couple things. The first thing is your woodenware. You need to get a complete other hive. Now, just for ease of demonstration, there's no bottom boards or top covers to these hives. They're just the boxes and the frames. So I can show you what I do, but you want to make sure that you have, you know, if you're going to split, there's a couple ways to do it. Some people split one box, it makes 2 hives. Some people can take a bigger hive. So if you have a hive that's maybe 2 deep boxes full of bees You can split it, into 2, 3, 4 boxes, just depending on the amount of brood and bees in the hive. So you want to plan ahead and have ample woodenware to put the bees or the frames into, or to split into. So whether you purchase it assembled or you make it yourself, those are just personal preferences that you have to do and get that ready. The second thing that you want to do is queens. So each hive is going to need a queen, and you need to decide, how am I going to get a queen into the new hive? And am I going to replace the old queen? So some people will try and get 2 years out of a queen. Other beekeepers will kill all the queens and start off brand new queens in all their hives, so that they only have queens that are a year old. Queens are very productive in their first year, and it declines each subsequent year after that. So you typically, especially commercial beekeepers, will want to have all new queens in their hives when they're starting off a year. So you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to get new queens? Am I going to, for our case, we're just going to try and split into 2 boxes. Are we going to need 2 queens? Am I going to keep this queen? Make those decisions. I would probably try to get 2 queens. So then you have to decide, how am I going to do that? You can buy mated queens. You can buy virgin queens. You can buy queen cells, or you can do what's called a walk-away split, where you kill the queens, you leave eggs, and you leave the bees to raise queens themselves. Okay, so you've got to decide that beforehand, because when you do your split, you want to have, like, if you're buying mated queens, you want to know when they're going to deliver and do your split accordingly. Basically, so that the hive has been split a day, 2 days before your mated queen arrives, so you can put her in afterwards. Same thing with queen cells. It's kind of hard just to get 2 queen cells unless you know somebody who's making them. Typically, commercial beekeepers will buy queen cells, but they'll buy them in the order of like 1,500 at a time. So it's cheaper to get queen cells than mated queens. Again, that's a factor that you want to look at. You're going to spend around $35 to $40 for a mated queen. Queen cells, you can get them for $5 a piece, but you're going to have to buy, $500 worth. So you're going to have to buy a lot of queens. So it just depends on your operation, what you're going to do. So then you figure out how you're going to get your queens. So for this scenario, if I was the first time I was doing splits, let's say I decided to purchase 2 queens, and they're going to arrive tomorrow or the next day. So we're planning on getting them for today. Let's plan on getting them Saturday. So we're going to do the split today on Thursday, give the bees some time to realize that they're queenless, and then they'll be more accepting to the new queen once we put her in. But again, any method is acceptable. If you do a walk-away split, there's a lower percentage that the queen will take, or that will be raised and start laying eggs, than if you were to put a mated queen in there. It's just a higher percentage, and not all mated queens are accepted. Things still happen with that method as well. So try different methods out. I could say every time you do it, you'll learn more stuff. Okay, so I have 2 boxes. I have the queens coming tomorrow. So now I need to split the boxes to do the actual hive splitting. So typically what you want to do is you want to divide the resources. So if you're doing 1 box into 2, you want to equally divide the resources. So what I'm talking about is empty comb is a resource, honey is a resource, brood is a resource, pollen is a resource. So you take frames and you look, you know, how many frames of brood do I have? How many frames of honey do I have? And you basically are splitting them. And that's the easiest way to do it. So what you would do is, those who can see on Facebook, I have a second box off to the side here. It's empty. By empty, I mean there's no bees in it. It does have frames. The frames are a mixture of comb and foundation. And then in this box in front of me, I have the, we'll say this is the hive with the active colony in it. And so first thing you want to do is in your empty box, you want to take out frames, whether they're, you know, just empty foundation, or if you do have some comb that you want to set, you know, use. And you basically, what you do is, and this is an 8-frame box, you can, as long as the frames are the same size, you can go from a 10-frame to an 8-frame, or most people would stay with the same box. It was easier for me to get this box out. But basically what you want to do is, there's no bees in this hive yet. I basically took out half of the frames because I'm going to exchange them with the hive that has bees in it. And then I'm going to push these frames to the outside edge just because they have, they're foundation only frames, okay? So when I go into this frame, or this box, hive box, I would go through and I would take inventory, all right? So imagine me with a suit, a smoker. You'd smoke the hive, you'd go in and you'd take inventory of what you see in the hive, right? So I have my teaching frames. So like this would be a frame of eggs, larva on this side, maybe some comb. And then this is the frame of honey, okay. And then you also have some empty frames. That's just a frame of comb only, all right. And all of that is resources. You're going to need all of that. You're going to need the brood, the eggs for the bees to continue that growth cycle. You're going to need honey because that's what they eat. You're going to need pollen in both hives because that's what they feed their larvae. Okay, and then the comb is good because it's already built comb. They don't have to use the energy to draw out the wax. They can go right into filling it up either with eggs or with more resources. Okay, so typically, since the hive will be in a ball cluster, hopefully it's a full strong hive to where your ball of bees is almost all the way either 8 frames or a full 10 frames full of bees. Most of the time, you can just go in and just take one half and put it in because the larva's in the center, the resources are on the outside. So if you start in the center and go one way or the other, generally you'll do it correctly that way. But typically what I like to do is when I'm splitting, I take, it's a little hard for you guys to see this. I take the outside frame out and I just put it off to the side. And that's basically just to give me some room to work with. So I can manipulate the frames easier. I can just quickly look down, spread them out, and go through. The splitting I've done, typically we want to make sure there's 2 frames of brood. We just lost the Facebook. There's 2 frames of brood, and that one of the frames has eggs as well. Okay, so you go through, you find a frame of larvae, you put that in there, and there'll be bees all over it. Put that in. You find another frame. You want to make sure that they have eggs on it. And the reason that you want to make sure that they have eggs, we bought a queen that's coming and mated, and she's going to be the queen. But the secondary plan, if something happens with that queen, is for that hive to raise up their own queen with the eggs that they have, okay? So it's basically just an insurance policy. We want the queen that we're purchasing, because we're purchasing her for her genetics, possibly, or just so we know what kind of queen she is. But if you make sure there's eggs, you just give them that higher probability that they will eventually raise a queen or have a queen there in that hive. Did you hear me, that, honey, that the Facebook did?
There's nothing I can do.
Okay. So the next thing we look for, maybe a frame of empty comb. All right, we'll put that next to the larva and the rest of the brood. That just gives them a place, the new queen, to expand into. Okay, if she already has the comb drawn out, once she goes in there and starts laying, she immediately has to go in there. It's a lot harder for the split to succeed if they're doing just straight onto just foundation only frames, because the workers have to be busy drawing out all this foundation so she can lay in it. And I've seen it where, like, they're literally drawing the foundation. She'll put eggs just in these cells before there's even very much wax or comb drawn, and they'll just continue to draw it as the larva is being fed. So that can't happen, but it's very resource intensive. You again have more. The more comb you have, the easier the split will, or more likely that the split will survive. And then the next thing you want to do is the food resources. So this is honey. So I'd make sure that both hives have some honey in them, if at all possible. And then that completes the transfer of all of the resources. So half of the resources, half the honey, half the pollen, half the brood has been transferred from this hive over to the second or the new hive, okay? So what you do with this is, typically what you have is you have a frame over here with nothing on it, and then you have what's left of your hive colony on these frames. So typically what I do is I center it up. Kind of hard holding this up and moving the frames. So you center it up so that the colony is in the center. Typically works better like that. You put your other frames that you got from the other colony on the outside, on both sides. Okay, and you typically would want to put any comb that you have. You'd want to put any comb that you have on this, and then, like, if you had just foundation only frames, you put them on the outside. Some people like to checkerboard. That may be another discussion if you have a question about that. But for the most part, you want to have your hive in the middle, and then you want to have any comb that you have that you can transfer in on the outside of the brood or the ball of bees, and then on the outside of that is your foundation frames, the new frames that only have foundation. Okay. Now then, from there, you have two boxes of bees. There's two techniques. Now, one thing I didn't mention is since I'm replacing both queens, or I'm replacing the queen in this one, and I'm putting a new queen in the second hive, I would want to go through here, both hives, both frames, and find the queen and actually kill her. Okay? If you put a queen into a hive with another queen, those bees will kill the new queen. They won't pick which one they think is best. They will typically be loyal to their existing queen and kill the new queen. So you want to make sure that you find the queen and kill her, so that when your new queens arrive, you'll have a queenless hive for her to go in and she'll be accepted. Okay? Now then, from there, what you want to do is there's a couple methods really. Since we haven't put the queens in here, there's two things we could do. We could immediately transfer these hives to a new location. The problem with that is that if it's in the middle of the day, you'll have a lot of foragers out, and you will lose those foragers if you immediately move the hive. So some people like to leave one hive at the original location and take the other one to a new location. The other thing that you can do is just put the second box, and of course you'd have to have the same size box. It kind of doesn't work with two different size boxes. But if you had two 10-frame deep boxes, you'd put the one you just split just right on top. Okay, so if you split 2 boxes into 4 boxes, you'd have a stack of 4 boxes. And what you do is you come in the evening with your bottom boards and your top boards, and after the sun goes down and it's dark and all the bees are in here, what they'll do is they'll achieve a form of equilibrium on all the frames on all 4 boxes. They'll make sure that there's the same amount of nurse bees on each brood frame, and so the bees, also trying to regulate the temperature, will evenly divide out on however many boxes you have, whether it's 2 like this or 4 boxes. So what you do is you come back at night, you have your bottom boards, your extra top boards, and you simply lay out your bottom boards. You take a box off, you put it on a top board, you strap it up, and then you just keep on doing that for however many boxes. You put a new lid on this box, strap it up, and then you would put both boxes in the back of your pickup truck, take them to a new location, and set them out. And that way they'll be disoriented at daybreak, and they will stay with the hive box that they're in. They'll orient to the new box that they're in, and that'll become their hive. The problem that you have is if you stay in the same apiary, you just move the boxes, in the same apiary. The bees have oriented themselves to the hive location, and so whichever box stays at that location, all the foragers, when they leave the other box, they'll come back to the original location. And so what you get is one hive that has a very high population of bees, and the other one is just basically the nurse bees, because they've never been outside of the hive. And the one with just nurse bees has a lower probability of survival, just because there's just not a lot of foragers for that hive. That's pretty much it. So the other thing that is probably the lowest experience level is what they call, you'll hear people talk about a walkaway split. And that's basically just kind of doing what I did. But you don't provide them a queen. You just basically take 2 boxes, you separate them, you leave them, and then you come back and check a couple weeks later to see if they have in fact both raised queens or if there is a queen in both of them. Lowest probability for that type of method to work, but it is by far the cheapest method. I think that's pretty quick. It's kind of hard when there's not a lot of questions. Is there anything that I need to cover? Do you have any questions?
I don't. I think you did a great job. So we're having, if you're tuning in late on Instagram because Facebook didn't work for us, I will try and get the video saved and then upload it to Facebook. That would be the ideal thing. And if not, then maybe we'll try this again. But it gives you an understanding of what splits look like. And if you're interested in watching splits happen, you can send us a message because we will be splitting our hives this spring. And you can talk to him about coming out and maybe helping or watching or just, getting an understanding of what he's doing and why. Anyway, it's always a good way to learn. So this was our January meeting. We will meet in February in person at Faith Fellowship Church. And we hope that you can join us. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to comment on our Instagram page, our Instagram feed, or our Facebook page. And somebody will answer you generally. And if you're interested in joining, come out in February. We meet the third Thursday of the month. And you can join up and you will be on our mailing list for the newsletter and everything else. So, you have any comments?
No, I mean, the only thing I'll say is in the spring, your hives, their goal is to split, right? Their goal is to increase their population of individuals, but then their other goal in the superorganism is to reproduce at the superorganism level. So basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is your hive is going to split whether you manage that process or not, right? Half your bees, if you don't manage it, you just let them split on your own, you'll just one day see half your bees fly off and they'll go establish a hive somewhere else. Which, depending on your goals, that may be fine for you. You may not be in it for any commercial type venture, but it is, a valuable resource. Bees in the hive, that's a valuable resource. When you have one hive producing honey for you, why not have two hives producing honey for you? So it just depends. Different people, you find out how many hives you can handle, and then anything above that number is just really more than you can manage. You'd be surprised at how fast it grows.
Yes. And sometimes when you split, they still will swarm. So, we try to intervene and manage them, but sometimes they don't listen and they do what they want. So, anyway. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. And how many are usually in this group when you are at the church? We vary. Our attendance at the club meetings varies anywhere from 4 people to 30. So, we're in a very large fellowship hall at our church. And we definitely have the ability to spread out. People are welcome to wear masks if they like. It is not a mandatory thing. Like I said, it's very easy for us to spread out. We have a very large room, and so far we've had speakers that are able to speak loud enough. So, let's see. There is not a discount to buying a lot of hives. And the reason is because we have a finite number of hives for sale and we will sell them all. So that's why we tell people to get a reservation and go online. On our Facebook page is my link, and sometimes I've posted it on Instagram. If you want a hive, it's really best for you to go ahead and reserve it and then send a deposit, because we will sell out. And the word that we are hearing, several of our friends who have sold in the past might be selling far fewer hives this year. So I think in East Texas, the bees are going to move quickly. So
I will not be selling queens. The plan is right now not to sell queens. Maybe we'll get into that in the future, but not this year.
And we do not sell nukes. We sell hives. So they come in deep box. with 8 frames and a feeder and a solid bottom board and a migratory cover. That's the package that we sell. And the price for this year is going to be $225. We guarantee 5 frames of bees, but usually when you pick them up, there's closer to 7 or 8. So trying to see what your questions are. Let's see. And no, yes, he answered about the queens. And
if you're just wanting to get into bees, and you don't have bees, so you can't split, there are a lot of different ways or methods to purchase bees. One method is a package. So a package is just typically it's a 3-pound box of bees with a queen in a cage and a can of syrup with it. How those are made are a beekeeper goes through his hives and he just shakes off bees into one big container, and then he just measures out 3 pounds of bees from that container. So all the bees are not related to each other, or they're not from the same hive, I guess I should say. And then he has queens that he puts in there. And so the thought process is while it is shipped to you, all those bees get used to that queen, and then that becomes a hive in the shipping process. Once they get those bees, you have to put them in a hive. They have to decide to draw wax and then have the queen start laying. A lot of people have had problems with bees. The bees can just, as soon as you let them go, they can all just fly out. So we don't recommend buying packaged bees. Your next option is buying what's considered either a hive or a nuke. So a nuke, when you think of that, is you're buying just 5 frames. They'll come in either a plastic container or a cardboard container. And basically nuke stands for nucleus of bees. It's considered like the smallest amount of bees for a hive to start. And so on those frames, you'll have resources. They'll have drawn them out. Not all of the frames may or may not be drawn out, but you'll have brood, you'll have queen, you'll have worker bees on there. And they will stay with those frames. So you take those out and you put them into a regular hive, add some more frames, and then that nucleus, just through natural processes, expands.
It's kind of like when you split, what you walk away from is like a nucleus with extra frames.
Right. And
So,
the other
very
way
similar.
is to buy what are considered hives. So it just depends on the size or how much you want to spend. You can find people selling 2 deep box hives. You can find them selling single box hives. Ours is kind of it's a hive. It has a bottom board, the box, the frames, the top, and then it has the nucleus plus of bees in it.
So, and we've got lots of people who've taken our class or have bought bees who are repeat customers, and we've just had very successful hives and very successful customers. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to ask us. If you want some references to hear what the bees look like from somebody not related to us, we'd be happy to put you in touch with somebody also. And somebody asked if we deliver. We do for a fee. If you don't have the ability to come pick them up, we can coordinate to come out to your place to deliver the bees. So,
and I would say, if you choose not to buy from us, my recommendation is that you do buy them from a local beekeeper, someone you can deal with directly. We've just had problems heard of problems with people who buy maybe a package or somebody from out of state, and it's really hard to get the level of customer service that you'll get if you're buying somebody. You're either handing them your credit card or giving them cash, and they're giving you the bees. I think you have a lot better customer service experience because they want you to succeed. They live in your community, so
And they're going to be the ones that if you just have random, bizarre questions, that's who you're going to call. So definitely, there are several people in the East Texas area that in the past have sold hives, and I suspect will be selling hives this year. We also highly recommend, if you're brand new, taking a class is so very important, because you can get online and you can watch videos all day long about beekeeping. Most of the videos that you see on YouTube that are very popular are northern beekeepers, and their techniques are not the same as what we do down here. A perfect example is they wrap their bees up north. We don't wrap our bees. We don't worry about our bees during the winter. They fend for themselves. We don't put, crystallized sugar in their hives so that they can feed on it during freezing temperatures, things like that. Finding someone who's going to be a mentor and teach you the local kind of methods for being a successful beekeeper, as well as someone who understands the local forage and the pollen and the nectar and what's going on locally as far as flower production. The deeper you get into bees, the more important flower production is going to be to you, and the more you're going to want to understand what's going on through the seasons year to year, because it changes. It's not like you can just pick up a book and read it. Everything changes based on our freeze hours and our, the length of our winter, so many different things. So it's very, very important to be a successful beekeeper to start out with a class. And again, you do not have to take our class. East Texas Beekeepers has a class that they run out of White House. The Marshall area beekeepers, they have a class. I wouldn't be surprised if the Canton group has a class. We just recommend, if you want to be successful, we've seen students be very successful after taking a class. So classes are important, and being involved in a club. And again, it might sound like we're promoting ourselves. We're not. We would love to have you in class, but we don't care who you take your class from or who you buy your bees through. We would love to have you in Henderson County Beekeepers, and we would just love to get to know you as a beekeeper. So that's just what we stand for. So we just want everybody to be successful and have a great experience with bees, because we've thoroughly enjoyed our experience with them. So it's become a family affair. Everybody's a beekeeper. Probably me the least so, but that's okay. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. And again, I'm so sorry that Facebook didn't work. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to download this and upload it to Facebook, and that way everybody will get to benefit from it. So have a great week. If you have any questions, continue to ask questions, and we will continue to answer them. Yes, Go for Noel says that she will be a reference. She says call her, and she's on Facebook. You can message her and just say, hey, how are the bees that you can get through Milk and Honey Meadows, and she will tell you. She's also taken our class, and she's a very successful beekeeper. So, okay, everybody have a great night. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you get into bees. We'd love to see you. Bye-bye.